Good morning. Good morning. One day down, two to go. And I'm so very happy to see that you came back. That means yesterday was a huge success. So thank you for coming back. We have another powerful and wonderful day today, not only with the general sessions and the concurrent sessions. Don't forget to go to the Innovation Bazaar. If you haven't walked through that hotel room, please do so. It's amazing. I'm only supposed to be up here for a couple minutes, but I got the mic. That means I have the control, so Dave's just going to have to wait. I have a couple of big things that I want to do before I go into my little activity. The first thing is, as you heard me yesterday talk about the puzzle pieces, I have a very, very important puzzle piece here today, and I really need to recognize her. She has been amazing putting this conference on. From the selection of local committee members to doing the Innovation Bazaar to wanting to bring a different spin to NAEHCY's conference. She's not only a great grantee in the Orange County Department of Education, but I can really honestly say she's one of my best friends. So I'd like for you all to give a really great California thank you to Jeannie Ari. I asked our local committee to please put some words together that would describe Jeannie, and I'm going to read them to you without crying. Kind, dedicated, passionate, diligent, impressive, unfailing, purposeful, classy, look at her outfit, exuberant, resourceful, sunshine, perfection, flexible, amazing, supportive, smart, marvelous, and awesome. So Jeannie, I cannot tell you from the bottom, there's a saying, and I'm sorry, but I have to say it. They say, I want to thank you from the bottom of my butt, because my butt's bigger than my heart. So thank you from the bottom of my heart and butt. I love you. Thank you. Here. Okay, the last thing I want to do, as you heard me yesterday again with the puzzle pieces, my local committee wanted me to give you some of my best practices as a state coordinator. And I think you as state coordinators, as local liaisons, as anybody that collaborates and coordinates, needs to grab a wand. And there's a wand for each of you in the little cute tennis shoes. Okay, wait. It's not because we're close to Disneyland that I'm giving you the magic wand. There's a reason you need the wand. You can get these at the dollar store, 12 in a package. It's really inexpensive. But the neat part is that you give this away and you tell them, you have the power. You have the power to identify these kids. You have the power to serve these kids. You have the power to work together. And you've heard me say I'm one person for 1,800 homeless liaisons. I have to give them the power to make that identification, to really know that they are the best at what they do in their organization. Nobody else knows the job that you do but you. And so many times we are just that single puzzle piece, that one person that knows homelessness or foster youth. But we are expected to provide transportation, school supplies, educational support, medical, dental. So take this wand and know that you are powerful and you have the power within you. Take this with you and remind yourself that you have the power, because there are going to be days that you're going to forget that you have that power. I am so blessed to be a part of this. I might be running around like a chicken with my head cut off, but I have to say it has been so very powerful. And I want to say thank you for giving me the power, and thank you for being here, and have a great conference. I'd like to take the opportunity as I exit the stage to introduce to you one of the best pieces of the puzzle nationwide. John McLaughlin is with the United States Department of Education, and he was at one time a state coordinator, so he's walked the shoes, walked the path that you have done with the shoes that we are wearing now. And I just want to be able to introduce to you a great puzzle piece, John McLaughlin. Thank you.
All right, good morning, everyone. So I really want to thank NAEHCY for giving me this opportunity to greet and address you. It's great to be in California, the state where I was born, married, and you have 20% or more of our homeless children and youth out of the nearly 1.4 million nationally, close to 300,000. So your state is on my mind all the time. My wife's family's from Gardena here in Southern California, so I come every year. I notice the homelessness when we're going around. And even after 10 years of greeting NAEHCY on behalf of the U.S. Department of Education, this is always both exciting and daunting to face so many of you. This record attendance is pretty mind-blowing to see more than 1,500 of you. I remember the days of 700, and it's a testimony not only to the growth of our population, but the growing support for our program, that our federal funding has increased nearly 40% in the past 3 years, with 10% increases. And NAEHCY and this conference are incredibly important for the success of our program. My piece of the puzzle, for some of you, may have you in the center, but I think often I'm on the margins or sides. Sometimes people say, oh, you're the big kahuna in Washington. And I say, no, I'm a bit more like the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, right? Masterminding the data reports and the monitoring plan, going to interagency meetings. And I'm not alone, so I do have one colleague from the Department of Education, Francisco Ramirez. I don't know if he's in the audience, but if you can stand and wave. Also from Southern California in the Corona area, he grew up. And this conference is a chance for us to get outside of our, headquarters building there near the National Mall and see where our worlds intersect, hear your challenges, hear the successes and innovations you are coming up with so that we can spotlight those in our technical assistance through the National Center for Homeless Education. The conference is very inspiring to me personally, hearing Mandy, the Teacher of the Year, and Hussein. I'm a former ESL educator. That's what I did for 25 years before I got into this line of business. And the compelling stories of the youth, many of whom are immigrant children themselves, is also very moving. And we face some of the same stresses and frustrations in our work as you no doubt do. So I'm really grateful for the wand. I will, give myself some powers from time to time. And, we do appreciate all those times you go the extra mile to help a parent, a guardian, and unaccompanied homeless youth to get enrolled, get transportation. That has probably saved us hundreds, if not thousands of calls over the years. Given that our numbers have doubled in 10 years, our phone calls haven't, and that's a good sign. So we really thank you for that. And for those of you who've been a liaison or coordinator for years, we know, or decades, we know that you've been training and mentoring and taking care of others in your states and communities, and thank you for that also. Before I present some ed updates, and then I'll turn the floor over to colleagues from HUD and the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness, I want to acknowledge also the people who help me directly on a daily or weekly basis, which is the National Center for Homeless Education. So if you're here in the audience, please stand up. I want to just wave or stand up. I can't quite, the room is so big, I can't quite see. Oh, some in the back. So we have Jan Moore, the Assistant Director, Christina Endries, Jacinda Goodwin. I believe Diana Bowman is here also, the former director. And thank you for, so they do field thousands of calls every year and do all those webinars. So I'm very grateful for your service. So now, do I have a clicker? How do I do the slides? Oh, is somebody going to move them? This. Oh, okay, good. So there we go. So program office updates. Here's the topics I'm going to talk about because this is how we think about our work and how we prioritize it. And so we'll go over monitoring, technical assistance, performance reporting, and interagency and cross-program collaboration. And so to talk about our staffing and our monitoring, it was very exciting last year when our staff doubled to 6. We currently have 5 unit staff, and some of them are also managing other new programs. Congress appropriated lots of money for hurricane relief for both displaced and homeless children and youth. So Francisco does the displaced program. We also have assistance for homeless children and youth. And another colleague manages the opioids policy, which recently legislation was signed giving millions to ED with a prioritization for homeless youth. So thank you to those supporting that kind of prioritization. And we are going to monitor the last 4 states that haven't been monitored in 10 years in this coming year. We haven't notified them formally, so I can't say them, but you know who you are. But because we're in California, I also want to mention that statutorily we have a report to Congress due by next December 10th, the 4th year anniversary of ESSA, amending EHCY, that includes also a report on separate schools, the 2 of which are in California. So we will come knocking. I've already warned Leanne, it will be more targeted, and also the LEAs around those schools. We piloted a lot of protocols and processes in our monitoring using LEA and school data analyses and maps, and we aim to make more of those public to you on the ED website, Ed Data Express, as well as through the National Center for Homeless Education. So we think that visualization of your data to look at potential under-identification based on poverty, where subgrants are, and achievement gaps is really important. And now we have the new data on graduation rates and chronic absenteeism to focus. When it comes to technical assistance, this is a critical year coming up because we must recompete the NCHE contract once every 5 years. So there's a lot of work that happens on both sides there. We're happy to say that we have a lot of new products coming in the next few months. In the interagency arena, we have ones on a collaboration with Department of Labor programs serving homeless youth and young adults. That's a priority in the administration. Jasmine might say more, but we have a work group on employment. Our secretary is very focused on career and technical education. We will do one on collaboration with runaway and homeless youth programs. I'll say more about our work with HHS on that. We will summarize the common policies and procedures and state plans and spotlight the innovative and promising ones in a brief to come out. That has been a big amount of our work in the past year, reviewing not only the plans, but all the resubmissions. Extracurricular transportation is a hot button issue. We have a tip sheet coming out shortly on that, defining what it is, what school-sponsored extracurricular activities are, and creative ways some states and districts are arranging that transportation. We know it's a big challenge for you and can be a big cost. And you'll hear more about the Youth Homelessness Demonstration Program, where we've had a year of work with them. That's a big part of what NCHE is doing now. They're working in many of you, perhaps in your states, and even more as that program grows. So you'll get some lessons learned from that. We're also updating products on early childhood education to catch up with the regulations to Head Start and Child Care Development Fund. Serving Native American youth is a hot button issue in so many states. That actually came out earlier this month in the State Coordinator Handbook. Disaster assistance, and then we do many data guides and data reports. The national report with the numbers I mentioned will come out in about a month. So we're excited that not only does ESSA require, but we were a little bit ahead of the game. We've gotten 4-year adjusted cohort graduation rates for homeless students. For the 16-17 school year, we had 44 states. The rate is hovering in the mid-60 percentile range. When you look at 5-year, it's about 70%. You may know there's an Education Leads Home campaign launched in Texas in March that promises to boost that rate to 90% by 2030. We will be tracking this rate nationally also to provide and check the data quality. Chronic absenteeism is another measure that has come in. 2/3 of states have that in their state accountability systems. We have it for every school in the country on homeless youth, and it's amazing. We're finding that some districts have more chronically absent homeless youth than homeless youth identified. So we think this will help us boost identification, track them, reduce their absenteeism, and then boost graduation rates and achievement. So we're looking at the achievement gap. So it's no longer how do homeless students and LEAs with subgrants and those without do, but how do homeless students line up with all the other major subgroups? Race, ethnicity, gender, English learners, foster care is now in. So that's how we'll report, 3 minutes. And then we are proposing to collect racial ethnic data on homeless students to support the federal strategic plan, Home Together, with a focus on racial equity, looking at disparities both in the service population and the service provider system. And that will go out in the Federal Register early next month. So interagency collaboration is very important to us. We don't have a congressionally mandated federal office of homeless education, some like we do at the state level or liaisons. But USICH's vice chair is Assistant Secretary Frank Brogan, confirmed by the Senate in June. He has actually a background when he was Lieutenant Governor of Florida, chairing a homelessness commission in the late 90s. We consider our work not just on our program, but we work with early childhood, ed, as well as post-secondary education, including career and technical education. You may know that Perkins was reauthorized this summer and has McKinney-Vento language, and they'll be reporting on homeless youth served by their program. And we have our own interagency and bilateral collaborations with various agencies, and I'll go over some of those quickly. So we work with HHS on a range of early childhood issues, including we're updating our own NCHE product. We have fact sheets coming through ICH for both housing providers and service providers on serving young children experiencing homelessness through early childhood education programs. And we, HHS, had 2 years, you might remember Marcia Baslow if you've been here, of state profiles. Ed is going to do volume 3, and from here on in, so that'll be coming out in about a month. We've been working directly with HHS's Family Youth Service Bureau that has the runaway and homeless youth programs. So I have a lot of acronyms to shorten my slides. So FISB has included me and NCHE staff on listening sessions with RI grantees in Florida, California, North Carolina. We'll present with some of them at RITAC later this week. They are interested in sharing outcome data with unaccompanied homeless youth served by our school districts and by RI projects. So we are working on facilitating that data sharing. San Jose Unified School District, if you're here, and the Bill Wilson Center have a good example for us. And then we are going to do the brief by next March for the National Homeless Youth Summit on RI collaboration with school district programs. And then last but not least, our work with HUD is primarily focused lately on the Youth Homelessness Demonstration Program, which has grown tremendously over the past few years. So NCHE has additional staff working with states and districts on it. But we also do work, the point in time count is very important to HUD and USICH for tracking their progress. They know we have information on unsheltered children and youth, on unaccompanied homeless youth, and others. And so we have developed a COC, Continuum of Care, School District Crosswalk, We're going to run our totals for 16-17 that we published on our website last month by school district. People can access your data and give it over to ICH and HUD for better planning and evaluation of the PIT count, for example, the one this January 2019. And like I said, we're going to do some spotlights on lessons learned from YHDP. A good percentage of those are rural, and there is a big focus on rural homelessness, and we, as an agency, want to be very active in contributing our data and work to those efforts. So with that, I would like to introduce my colleague from HUD, Carolyn Kraus, who is the program manager for the Youth Homelessness Demonstration Program, has worked closely with me and NCHE over the past year. This is her first time at the NAEHCY Conference. It's got to be a bit daunting. It's also unprecedented. I don't think we've had a HUD official address the NAEHCY Conference ever before, so please give Carolyn a warm welcome. Thank you.
Magical powers. Thank you, John, for that warm introduction, and thank you all for coming here and inviting me. This has been a really great experience for me, and I will say this is daunting, but I hope that we can continue working very closely together. It's one of my favorite parts of my job. So, as John mentioned, I'm the program manager for the Youth Homelessness Demonstration Program. This is a program that we've been funding. We've had 2 rounds funded so far. So far, we've given out $76 million to 21 communities, 9 of which are rural. So if anyone here is in a community that has a YHDP, could you stand up or raise your hands? There you go. So the Youth Homelessness Demonstration Program is a program that really seeks to make a drastic decrease in youth homelessness by creating systems changes at community levels with coordinated community plans to end youth homelessness in those districts, or those communities. So in the Youth Homelessness Demonstration Program, we first require communities to take a long time to plan what their systems approaches are going to be to youth homelessness. And during that planning process, we really require them to look broadly across stakeholders in their communities and work together to figure out what the needs are and how they are best going to address those using the principles that we know are key to ending youth homelessness, including housing first, positive youth development, and trauma-informed care. So I wanted to just share a few of the lessons learned that we have so far, and I honestly think, as I was writing down my notes quickly, that you all probably are going to say that should be obvious, but I just wanted to make sure that they were reinforced. So the first thing that I think is most important about how we've been doing the youth homelessness demonstration is making sure that youth voice is key in that process of both the planning and the implementation of any projects that will be used to address youth homelessness. So at HUD, we had youth help us develop our program and our NOFA. We help them review the applications that come in, and then we also use them as technical assistants to go out into the communities to make sure that they can build up that youth voice. We also insist that the communities have a youth action board who will be full members and help drive the decision making and identify the needs, because we do feel that there should be no decisions about youth without youth. The second thing that I wanted to share is the importance of data. And one of our grantees has started talking to it as bad data, so best available data. So HUD has some data, right? Schools have a lot of data. Nothing is probably the perfect data. And we've looked, a lot of our communities have been really innovative in looking at what kinds of data they're going to be using to really assess the needs. So they've looked at Medicaid data, they've looked at HUD data, they've looked at ED data, they've looked at data that you have from their runaway and homeless youth providers. They look at a wide range of data and try to piece together that puzzle of what the issues that they are seeing and the need in their community is, and really bring it together, but making sure that they use the data they have available rather than think about what they would do with data that they haven't quite worked out. So it's a two-prong approach. You want to use the data that you have to start working on issues, but also work to get the data that you think would be ideal. And then the final one, and I think everyone here will agree with me, and this is probably the most obvious, is that collaboration is really, really hard. You have people that speak a different language, especially when you're collaborating across systems that maybe don't serve necessarily the same populations all the time. There are privacy issues, there's data sharing issues. And what we've learned is that really it just takes a lot of work to bring together the people and really have a defined goal of what that collaboration is going to happen, but also working to make sure everyone understands what the stakeholders need to report to their higher-ups, or what they need from that collaboration in addition to that end goal. So we have a few communities that have done some really great work through a lot of work with NCHE, so that who are TA providers within the communities that are doing the YHDP. So in the city of Austin, the COC has been working with the school district to really make sure that they have overlap using data matching between the schools to see what the overlap is between families that are experiencing homelessness as identified by the schools compared to by the COC, and see where that overlap is. And then doing some work to see what kind of, after doing an, sorry, lost my train of thought there. So also doing work to see what kind of housing solutions those families could have. In Santa Cruz, one of the projects that they have implemented in the community is that they have a youth navigator that is placed at the schools to help those youth that are experiencing homelessness where they are every day. So there's been some really awesome work that's been going on, and I'm really excited to see education's reports on the more spotlighted issues that are coming forth. So just to kind of wrap up, I do want to, see that? So thank you again for having us. I do want to just put a plug in that the YHDP actually has a third round that will be announced in the next month or two, and we're essentially doubling the program. So there will be $75 million available to up to 25 communities, 8 of which must be rural. And I do want to emphasize that rural communities are a huge part of the YHDP, because we know that we can't just learn how to address youth homelessness in a city or an urban area, that we need to be looking at rural areas as well. There will be more lessons learned put out on the YHDP, and I really encourage you to just keep a lookout for that. Thank you. And with that, I'm going to introduce Jasmine Hayes, the Deputy Director of the U.S. Interagency Council of Homelessness.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm keeping this with me. I'm going to take this home. So it's great to be back here again this year. This is actually my 5th NAEHCY conference, which is very exciting for me. At my first conference, I had just joined the federal government after over 15 years in child welfare, and it was a perfect introduction to this work. So I'm pretty sure that makes us family, or somewhat family, especially those of you that joined us this morning at our 7 a.m. listening session this morning with John and Caroline. I actually don't think my real family would have done that, so you're all invited to Thanksgiving. But I also want to thank the team at NAEHCY for picking a theme for this year's conference all together now that aligns perfectly with what I want to talk about today. I know many of you were in Chicago last year, and I told you we were working on an update to the federal strategic plan to prevent and end homelessness that would help us focus our work over the next 5 years. We spent a full year talking to folks like yourselves and many others about what it's going to take to end homelessness in every community in America. And we released a new plan in July. It's called Home Together. We named it that because we know that the only true end to homelessness is a safe and stable place to call home. And we know that the solutions are going to take all of us working together, doing our parts. Mandy talked about this yesterday, and we've heard about the importance of collaborative partnerships in driving this work forward. So since my time is short, I'm going to talk about 3 things that I want you to know about this new plan, and then I hope you'll take some time to read it yourselves. First, it lays out the vision for the coordinated response we need to build in every community to end family and youth homelessness in all its forms. This is a systems response we've been talking about a lot over the last couple of years. So one that will make homelessness rare, brief, and one time. It's a response grounded in the expertise of people with lived experience and focused on ensuring equity. It's also the vision that's the foundation for the criteria and benchmarks for ending family and youth homelessness. USICH and our federal partners, including the Department of Education, and HUD have developed qualitative criteria and quantitative benchmarks that provide states and communities a clear roadmap for assessing how well their local coordinated community responses are designed and implemented, and that includes schools as critical partners. So last year at this time, I told you we were working on refinements to those criteria and benchmarks. Now I'm excited to say we have over 20 communities who are piloting them with us, and I'm so grateful to those communities that have volunteered to take this on. This is complicated, messy work, but it's so important to helping us understand if we're measuring the right things. And I should have results from those pilots to share with you next year. So second, in order to make sure that homelessness is rare, Home Together calls out a lot of the work that we still need to do around preventing homelessness in the first place. And I think this is an area where all of your communities are going to need your help. Prevention means recognizing the potential for a housing crisis before it unfolds. And if we're being honest, you and your colleagues in schools across America are among the best people to recognize those moments of crisis for families and youth. That doesn't mean we're asking you to do all the work on your own. The rest of the community has to come together to figure out how best to access and provide needed resources and supports, including access to housing that's affordable for our families and youth. We need your expertise, and we need you to be plugged into those efforts in your community to build those coordinated systems of support. So that means ensuring you have a seat at the table and keeping you there. And the last thing I'm going to mention is the importance of education itself to ending homelessness. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here, but through new data from Voices of Youth Count, we know that young people who don't graduate from high school or get a GED are 346% more likely to experience homelessness than young people who have. Lack of a diploma or equivalency is the single greatest risk factor for young people experiencing homelessness, not poverty or race or being a young parent, education. So as we work on building coordinated community responses to prevent and end homelessness, we must ensure that children and young people get the education they need to find and sustain jobs that will allow them to pay the rent in the first place, and then give them the stable platform they need to thrive. That's the charge. And our role across our 19 federal council member agencies is to do everything we can to support you in this work. And this is hard. But one of my greatest strengths is that I'm a true believer. I know in my heart of hearts that we can get this done for all children and youth. And I know you're believers too, or you wouldn't be here. We're committed to this work and to doing it together. So thank you so much for everything you've done so far and everything I know you'll continue to do. Have a great rest of the conference, and I look forward to seeing you next year in DC. Thank you.
Good morning. Are you ready for some magic? Magic, magic, magic. Okay. I'm Deborah Boone from the great southern state of South Carolina. Woo! Okay, it's my pleasure to introduce NAEHCY's first ever Homeless Liaison of the Year, Nicole Heyer. Come on up. Okay, here's Miss Nicole. She is the homeless liaison for Kalispell Schools number 5 and Evergreen School District number 50. Both districts receive sub-grant funds in Montana. She is a member, okay. She is a member of an informal support group of liaisons that provide feedback on all of the products developed by the Montana Office of Public Instruction's Education of Homeless Children and Youth program. Ms. Heyer provides outreach services to community organizations through her nonprofit, the Kalispell Heart program. Nicole, through this HEART program, is the primary coordinator of services to students experiencing homelessness within Flathead County. She coordinates her services with other agencies and businesses to ensure that students' needs are met and that the services offered match those needs. She has worked with a local nonprofit to support the development of 2 homes for homeless youth in her community. Ms. Heyer is a state leader in creating innovative programs to serve homeless students. Nicole brings her passion and her empathy based on shared experiences into every aspect of her work. So come on, Miss Nicole, whoop, whoop. Congratulations.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. Thank you. Thanks. Well, that was an introduction. I don't think I have much left to say, so I'm going to make this brief, really, because this is terrifying. This was not in the job description. Neither were half of the tasks that we all end up doing, so always a surprise. On the plane ride over here, I was thinking about what I would say to fill my few minutes, and I considered putting together some kind of an inspirational speech where I could talk about the importance of education and the work that we all do. But we are here for that purpose. We know this. And as I sat down to take some notes, I realized that I really don't have words of wisdom to bestow upon you. I would probably learn far more from you, shadowing you for a day in your jobs, than I could ever give to you standing up here for a few minutes with this microphone. I learn every day. And in fact, the mistakes that I've made in this work have been from me assuming that I know what my students need, assuming that I know what these families need. A large portion of what we do is just listen. So today I just want to talk about real briefly rural homelessness and the fact that it presents a whole other set of challenges. Not that there are any communities who have an abundance of resources, but rural homelessness, we don't even have the infrastructure for that to be. So what I did was build this nonprofit for my school district, understanding that we didn't have any resources within our community. And schools right now are having to become something more, something like a community center, a place that truly is the heart of a community, connecting students with the basic needs and also things like mental health and really just becoming a part and a piece of the community. My community has given beyond. It is amazing what you can do if you go out and just explain that there are students and families in need. It's pretty uncomfortable because you have to go and participate in things like this, but I would just urge you to go home and fall in love with your community because they want to help. They don't know how to be engaged in the schools. Short of going and reading to kindergartners, people don't know what to do. Provide them that opportunity and let the citizens in your community help you do your job. That's all I have. Thank you.
Here's your box. Oh, okay. And now Betty, who is our illustrious conference chair, will come forward with our next award.
Good morning. I'm Betty Poole. I am the conference chairperson from the great state of Indiana. Woo-hoo! And I have the honor and the pleasure of introducing not only a very capable young man, but a friend. And this year, this friend will receive the Sandra Neese Lifetime Achievement Award. That in the name of Tate Tatum. Come on up. In Kansas, Tate Tatum, Assistant Director at the Kansas City State Department of Education, is truly the face of McKinney-Vento. Recently promoted to this position, Tate previously served as the Kansas State Coordinator for the Education of Homeless Children and Youth. It is said that great leaders create great leaders, and this is true for Mr. Tatum. Utilizing the McKinney-Vento sub-grant process, local liaisons were mentored and encouraged to network across the state. Over the years, he has mentored more than 550 liaisons, sharing resources and ideas. The liaison network impacts the lives of children and families on a daily basis. Tate created and sustained a culture across Kansas of advocacy for children and families experiencing homelessness. His legacy continues to grow as his work responsibilities expand, along with his statewide capacity to improve the lives of countless children. So it is my honor to recognize you as the Sandra Neese Lifetime Achievement Award to this young man, Tate Tatum. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you very much.
Yes, and you are so deserving. Yes, you are. So I have to cram you one more time.
Okay. Thank you, Betty. That might help me with my speech as Nicole was coming up here. I won't say the person at my table, but I'll introduce her shortly, said, "Do you have to go up there and give a speech?" And I said, yes. And kind of what I want to talk about just briefly is kind of the theme, the all together now. Because, you know, when I get this award, it's because of all of us all together. There are many of us in here that are very deserving of this award. But I want to kind of think in groups of people who help me do what I do. The first is all the other state coordinators in the room. So can we have the state coordinators that stand up? Because as a team, we've learned from each other. I also am allowed, because I've got some great bosses at our Department of Education. We do a lot within our McKinney-Vento grant funding. We know how great of a conference this is and the networking and learning that people can learn, that we provide a fair amount of our funding for our liaisons and their staff to attend this wonderful conference. So I would like my Kansas liaisons and the staff in those districts to go ahead and stand, please, because we were able to bring about 40 of them. Those are the people that a lot of times think they make my life tough, but they're really doing a great job because I'm not getting near the questions that I used to 12, 13 years ago. I've got a small group also at this front table that I'm able to bring KSD staff, my data person, my administrative assistant, my two state coordinators that have replaced me, one that's already left because she found other great things to do, but still's helping us out in our current state coordinator. So could the four of you please stand? And then the last group that really helps me do what I want to do, and they're the ones that have to give up a lot of time being with me, but they're the ones that allow me to do this, spend my time out, and do stuff. And I won't tell you which of the ones that made the comment I shared to start with about the speech, but one of the three people I'll ask to stand now are one of those people. My beautiful wife, Sarah, and my children, Morgan and Reed, were able to come with me. So as everybody that's worked with me and seen my presentations, the one thing I want to leave with everybody is the work we do is so meaningful and great for the families and children we work with, but it's also important that we're able to continue to do that. So I really encourage everybody in this room and the staff we work with back in our home districts, our home communities, please, let's make sure we're also taking our self-care seriously and making sure we continue to be able to do the great work that we do. Thank you very much.
Our NAEHCY President, Dave.
All right, our last award winner, our McKinney-Vento State Coordinator of the Year. It's our first year having this McKinney-Vento State Coordinator of the Year, and I kind of call it the President's Award because from my speech, yes, you know how much I value state coordinators, and I wanted to really do something special for them because without these state coordinators, I couldn't be who I am today, and I just value them so much. But our winner, Pam Kaislow from the great state of Michigan, is the state coordinator of Michigan. She's been involved from the beginning as a district liaison. Well, first of all, she started off in Title I, then she became the district in Kalamazoo, Michigan, the McKinney-Vento. Then she became the regional Kalamazoo McKinney-Vento coordinator. And she spent about 10 years doing all those great things. And then all of a sudden, 10 years later, or 10 years from today, she became the state coordinator of Michigan. And she has made a real big impact in Michigan because you know they have the hand, the lower peninsula, and then you got the upper peninsula up there. And you know, she has to go across that Mackinac City Bridge a lot, and that connects the two peninsulas together. Well, and Pam, I want to bring you up now, please. Because Pam's worried about what I'm going to be saying now when I told her that's going on, because she knows Dave's a character, but really, she has done some incredible things. You know, for all those veterans who are here, I don't know how many years she and her team from Michigan and other states do a pre-conference. And then every year also she's doing concurrent sessions. And I went back so many years I didn't know when to stop. She's been a NAEHCY friend. She's making a big impact on her state. But one thing I want to share is something that happened this fall, and I found it out from Sakia Lee, former NAEHCY contractor. And there she goes, learning about what, because I did a lot of research on all these fantastic state coordinators, talked to past NAEHCY contractors, trying to find out what separates these people when I narrowed the list down, because it was a very hard decision to make it. And this is kind of something special, and I told Pam about it when I saw her Thursday night on this part. So what she did is, and she's an alumni of Western Michigan University, and it's over here, or, you know, over here on the west side of Michigan in Kalamazoo. And they had some students around the state that had graduated from high school, and they got a scholarship to attend Western Michigan University. And so Pam's been engaged in her cities and her school districts, and they had found out some of these students and these young ladies didn't have a quinceañera back when they were 15 years of age. And so the people had found out about it and had told Pam all about it, and they decided to hold a quesadilla for 10 students. And they had this great time, and they got this photo booth, kind of like what we do on here. But it was students that were homeless, foster care, and DACA students that were involved. And when I heard this story, and some things I really don't want to share, they were pretty private from Zakia on that part, but that's okay. But it was the little things that Pam does out in her state and the connections that she's made with her liaisons and the students. And she goes, like everyone else, above and beyond the call of duty. But when I heard what they did for students that had, should have happened when they were 15 years old, and now they're 19, going above and beyond the call of duty like all of you do all the time anyways. But I think this message just said something special. So that kind of clinched it, why we have the McKinney-Vento State Coordinator of the Year, Pam Kais Lowe. And so I want to congratulate you again. I'm doing it the diploma way. Pam, picture here.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, there are a lot of people here, right? Okay. I think Dave knows exactly how I feel about this, because what I said to him when he called me about this is, what? Quit kidding me. There's so many awesome state coordinators. What the heck? And I really believe that because I know most all of you. I know what you do, and I know how hard we all work. I had no idea back in 1998 when my boss told me to start a little program because we're supposed to be serving homeless kids, what it would become. No idea that all the shelters were within our district boundaries and that we had to cover half of the cost of their transportation to their schools of origin. Okay, we'll do it. We made it happen, just like you do. No idea that these families were the families that I had been working with for years in the district in Title I. No idea that I would gain so much from working with these folks and the people in the districts that want to help them. This is seriously not only a humbling and honored moment, this whole piece of work that we do is a gift to us, from each other, from ourselves, and from the folks that we serve. We, and especially me right now, we get our inspiration from each other and from the families and the students. I'm always amazed and awed at how resilient these kids are and how strong people are when they want something to happen for their children or for their students. It is a huge gift to me because it keeps me going every day. Lord knows we're not in this for the money, right, people? We wouldn't be here if we were. One of the things I always say, and you probably heard me say it 100 times if you've been around me, is that McKinney-Vento folks are the best people on this planet. I believe that. I know it. You are. You are. We share resources like no other groups I've ever worked with before. You know, educators are known for being territorial. They don't want you in their classroom because they don't want you stealing their best practices. Heck, we don't steal best practices, we give them away. That's what this whole conference is about. We'll give you everything and anything you need to use. We share everything that works for us and hope it works for someone else as well. That spirit of collaboration and sharing is what keeps me going and keeps me coming to these conferences every single year. I learn a ton. I meet some awesome, fabulous people, and it's true, the magic happens right here in these rooms. But there's a couple people I do need to thank, because when I was a newbie liaison, I went online to learn. Yes, there was an internet back then, people. Not for long, but there was one. I learned about the National Coalition for Homelessness, and this gal named Barbara Duffield was there. I talked to her online for 2 years before I realized that she was a hometown girl from Kalamazoo, Michigan. Her father was a pediatric dentist that used to provide services to our homeless students for free. Small world every day. I also want to thank Beth Garris-Hardy, the founder of NCHE, and Diana Bowman. I know you're here somewhere, Diana. When I was a brand new liaison, I must have beat that hotline till it burned my numbers off my phone. Christina Dukes and Jan Moore, other hotline people, webinar people. I mean, I had so many questions. They never acted like I was a pain in the butt when I asked them, and that was great. But I'm really not foolish enough to think that this beautiful award is for me and for my work alone. I have a regional program in our state for McKinney-Vento. We have 33 regional McKinney-Vento grant coordinators. They receive the funds to operate a consortium of districts in their area. We have over 900 public school districts in the state. I could never do it without them. 96 to 98% at any given time of those districts are consortium members, so they are all sub-grantees in McKinney-Vento. Those folks are the experts. They do the hard work. They're the ones that actually have the hands-on stuff that I kind of miss sometimes at the state level. What I do is I steer the ship. I kind of watch for icebergs. I kind of shield them from the state bureaucracy, right, guys? I want to share my award not only with these wonderful folks, but with all of the state coordinators, all of the district liaisons, and all of the agency partners that we have. So, Michigan folks, stand up a second. Rose, Sarah, Julie, Karen, Erin, Stacy, Julie, Brianna, Candace, and Patrick. Mwah. I love you guys. I would like to have my people come up and share this award with me. And you can begin the tape that I brought. Let's make some magic in here, people. We are the McKinney-Vento family. Come on.
Everybody get into it, let's go. Stand up.
I want to hear you sing it. We are family. I got all my liaisons with me. We are family. Everybody dance. We are family. All right.
Thank y'all. Great state of Michigan. Go Wolverines, all I got to say. Go blue. Go blue.
Thank you so much. I love you all.
Oh, you're welcome. Great job. Thank you. Woo, wow, fantastic awards, Nicole and Tate and Pam. What a way to start today off. All right, so as I get ready to introduce our keynote speaker today, when we were looking at topics, you know, all of you are members of NAEHCY, remember that. And we look at evaluation. We got so much input regarding attendance, dropouts, chronic absenteeism. And I'm glad John mentioned it this morning in his presentation. So we were looking to see who can we get here today to focus on attendance and that part. And we found a very special person. So from the great state of Indiana, has been mentioned again, that we have Carolyn Gentle-Genitty, who is going to give us her words of wisdom about why track attendance. So let's give a warm NAEHCY welcome to Carolyn.
Do I get the
15
announcement?
minutes. Yeah, you're good. Thank you.
Good morning. When you go after something like that, I should just be able to say, we're done, have a good day. We've had the celebration, we've had the welcome, but today my focus is very simple. I have two goals. One, make sure that you don't sleep. So make sure you touch your partner when you see them nodding. And second, to make sure that you walk away with at least one morsel of new information. What I present is not going to be earth-shattering enough that you haven't heard about it. It's going to be a new way of conceptualizing what you already do with the focus on who cares. I am a professor at Indiana University. I'm a tenured professor. I teach the bachelor's and master's program. I coordinate a PhD program and assistant vice president for university academic policy across all of IU's campuses. I do a lot with transfer and transfer students. I'm the director of the university-wide transfer office. So I have a lot of stuff in my head. But my goal today is to find that one thing that helps us understand who cares. When I work with doctoral students, a lot of times they are so excited about their topic, and they come and they're going on and on and on, and then I just say, so what? What is that one thing that you believe somebody else is going to pay attention to, that it's important that they would read your 200-page dossier or manuscript? You know this work more than I do because you do it every day. What's that one thing that's going to help that next person understand what they should do about why you are so passionate, why we have lifetime members that boogie off all early in the morning, right? So there has to be a question that goes deeper. And that question is, why track attendance? We know there's some unintended consequences from it, but I also know that I don't have a lot of time today. So let's start this off really well. Say hello to your neighbor and a person that you don't know, and simply just say, nice to meet you. Come on, this room should be buzzing. I can't hear you. Awesome. All right, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. And I want to then go into our next conversation. Why do we pay attention to the person next to us? We are often in positions where it's okay to say, I don't hate homosexuals because I have a couple of them who are my friends. I don't hate black people because I have a couple of them who are my friends. I don't hate disabled people because a couple of them are my friends. It's easy for us to go into those conversations, and we do that largely because we have spent time with them, and we know them beyond their label. In your line of work, you know those students beyond that homelessness label. You know who they are. You know their dreams and where they want to go. I'm going to show two videos today. This first one is one that talks about what students believe about their own environment. Yeah? So if you can, don't go to sleep on me. Remember, keep track of your neighbor. But this is just a couple minutes of what our students say about their environment and what's important to them. There are a lot of no-cost stuff that we could do. So if you stop listening to my presentation right now, I hope you have a different thought about what happens in your school. And I hope you actually take the opportunity to talk about some of the simplistic things that we could do. One method that I would recommend very quickly is the no-cost one of a help approach. Make sure you always say hello with a smile. Engage, lean in, and project hope and concern. That is important simply because in addition to the structures and measures that we put in place, there must be a human contact. The work you do makes sense because there's a human person there. We're so caught up in social media that sometimes we forget the person right beside us. We've all seen it. We've been in rooms where people are on their phones so often that they don't even stop to have a conversation. You're in a large room now. How many people do you know outside the people you came with? How many business cards have you gathered beyond your own goal or personal expectation? We're waiting for the PowerPoint and we're waiting for the next step and not engaging in what's happening now. We should be in environments where we're eliciting, we're amplifying and reinforcing and starting that conversation over and over. The reason that's important is because we know that 20% of our American children live below the poverty line. They're hungry, they're tired, they exhibit mental health challenges, they struggle to focus academically, and they're easily irritable. When you put children like that in an environment where kids are already teasing them, they're not dressed well or dressed appropriately, and they're singled out, instantly there's a growth of difficulties. And when we put that with attendance, students have far more challenges than we believe they have because we come from different environments. Maybe the issue is not ethnicity, but poverty across the board. We hear it over and over that African American students are more at risk. It's true. We see it. We know the data. But maybe it's not ethnicity. Maybe it's poverty. When you move from that regular conversation and you notice that 30% of our children experience sadness and hopelessness. Not all the things that we put up here, but basic sadness. Depression in a whole is much larger now than ever before for adults and children. We are so caught up in social media and we count the friends that we have there, but we really don't have any friends because we haven't talked or checked on them in a long time. Many feel unsafe just coming to school. What we know, so there's 168 hours in the week. That's for all of us. 84 hours, waking hours. We get to boogie. 60 plus of those hours spent in school. What we do in school matters. How we feel in school matters. But then we have a lot of unintended consequences. So when you think about your life as an adult, you may interact with church, school, work, family, social. For a child, school is the continuum. They're in school, they're in extracurricular, they're doing homework, they're thinking about what their friends think about them when they were in school. Everything revolves around school. So if school doesn't work, this is one of the reasons we end up having high suicide rates. Because if school's not working, then I'm not worthy enough. There's something else going on. We know homelessness continues to be stressors, but we also see school safety and mental health concerns. I want to demonstrate something to you. If I could get, I think I have 5 cans. If I could get 5 volunteers up front to demonstrate something very quickly. Any volunteer? Come on up. Hi, come on up. You go right in the center. Thank you. Thank you. These are the best people ever, right? They didn't even ask what it was. What? All right. So what I want you to do is, as best as you can, crush the can, stamp on it, do whatever you need to do as best as you can, crush it out. Whoa, we have a powerhouse. He just sort of put it between, yeah. Awesome. Now take your time and try to pull it back to its original form. Be careful there. Let's see who can take it back to its original, nicely, pretty, circular, cylinder version. Wonderful. Now let's talk about it. I'll ask, maybe you can walk up to the mic. I didn't have a, yeah, maybe we can walk up to the mic. Tell me what the experience was like of crushing the can.
Felt powerful.
Nice.
Felt strong.
No, that's good.
Felt it was
exactly.
easy to do.
It was easy?
It was a stress relief.
Good.
It felt good.
The gentleman that did it with just his bare hands.
Easy.
Easy. Ah. We need to take some exercise tips. You guys can put it down on the end if you want.
Mildly soggy.
Yours had a lot of liquid. We tried to pour it out earlier so you wouldn't have. Thank you guys so much. If you could stay right on the corner, I'll ask you one more question. This exercise is called Can I Come Back? Whoops. Sorry about that. He warned me about this when I clicked more than once. So it's called Can I Come Back? So we have a lot of prior knowledge that goes into how the can works, how to perform, the expectations of it, which is very typical to our youth, typical to our youngsters, typical to our students. They have a perception of what happens in a school environment. As instructors or individuals working in that environment, we believe the same. But then there's a process that occurs where we believe that we walk in there fully armored. And we get that power and that enlightenment. Like, I could go wherever I want to go. I could be wherever, or I could be whomever I want to be. And we sprint ahead. I know when I was younger, I wanted to be Superwoman. I don't know if I'm close or not, but it's one of those things. You're pushing. There's a high expectation. And then something disrupts that pattern. And in disrupting that pattern, it could be somebody using the word, you don't belong here. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You don't belong in the gifted group. You don't smell good. You should be in the corner. Don't sit at my table. Constant. And you hear it day after day after day, and something then changes in the pattern. So then we now have knowledge of difficulty. How do I then operate in this environment? This is where you volunteer if you'd like to. What was it like bringing back that can? Come on.
Well, when you first told us to put it back to its original shape, I thought, oh my goodness, how is this going to happen? But I tried, and then I gave up because I realized it was impossible, and it wasn't going to look the way that you wanted it to look. And so I gave up.
Anybody else want to share?
I was worried about getting hurt,
Yes.
cutting myself.
Yes.
And that happens with our families when we work with them.
Excellent. Oh, you guys are good. I promise I didn't pick on beforehand.
I immediately knew I could not pull it back together. Then I said, I'm going to keep trying anyway. And then I realized I was going to get hurt because the more I pulled, the more it was hurting me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow, you guys are good.
People are like cans. They're easily squashed and not so easily fixed.
Yes. Oh, powerful. Might as well, right?
I was a little frustrated, and also I felt like this is dangerous because there was a sharp spot on it.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much. when I was asking for the 5 cans, Miss Amy said, do you want the pretty cans? Do you want, plastic bottles? And this exercise works with these cans because of who they are. The pain, the sharpness, the worry about getting hurt, the worry about stepping out beyond the normal boundary, the worry about the fact that I may never go back to that original can. Even though you do work with students and you try the best you can, our goal is not to take them back to the original shape. Because the scars, the things that they have gone through, allow them to be the powerful person they will be. And it's upon that that they help others. So this last piece, number 5, talks about long-term plan and the need for other tools to return to the original form. And this is why NAEHCY works. This is why liaisons work. This is why social workers work. Because we are in an opportunity then to help long-term change. But long-term change also comes with some challenges. So this next video will be somewhat difficult to watch for some of you. Some of you, I think, it's going to take you right to the edge of being uncomfortable, and that's okay. But that's the conversation we're going to have next as we sprint into attendance. So bear with me. This one is just about 6 minutes. Yeah? Remember, nudge your neighbor. Keep them awake for me. We're in a time where we don't know the answers, but we need to be good listeners. We need to listen to our students of all kind. We are not having these conversations as much as we need to, but students are feeling and experiencing this in their school of all races. They're struggling and working through difficulties. They're struggling in identifying who they are and recognizing that somebody cares. We have to pay attention to how our children are raised and have these difficult conversations. No child wants to be bad. No child wants to be labeled and ostracized. No parent goes into it and say, I'm going to have a child and I'm going to mess up their life and ensure they're never successful. No teacher goes in it and say that I want my student to fail because I hate teaching. If you dig deep beyond yourself and find the reason we do what we do, you will recognize that stimuli changes behavior. In the past, we had good expectations to go outside, maybe build a can, put some sand in it, put a string on it, and roll it around the house, roll it around the yard. That's no longer a stimuli for any young person right now. Maybe a couple who are wannabe engineers or something. But most people have some social media or some device that's motivating them to do something else. What's the stimuli in your environment that can help you change the behavior? We talk a lot about stakes in society and stakeholders. Those of you from Indiana, my crew in this corner, we've talked about this. We've talked about you cannot have stakeholders until you give individuals a stake to hold on to. If we don't include our young people in the conversation, they have no stakes to hold on to. So talk about the future of tomorrow, it doesn't exist because they're not holding on to that stake that you have. The entire world is changing. A lot of people talk about the children are the future. Yeah, that was a good song by Whitney Houston a while ago. No longer the case. Because our children are actively involved in what's happening in our lives now. They're not waiting until they're 18 to enter the world. They're on social media every day. Every time there's a school shooting, our